Not saying that white folks don't have their own set of problems, but with black folks, like, it's really a war zone in our head with all of this oppression and trauma that we have to deal with. You get money, the trauma's still gonna be there. After you pray, the trauma's still gonna be there. Praying does not get rid of trauma, okay? After that trip, after you're high, after it comes down, that trauma's still gonna be there, just like I've been saying this whole time. Hey everyone, my name is Nateya and welcome to Naesthetycs, bringing you content that is aesthetic, authentic, and all about activism. Today's video is going to be a breakdown of the song PTSD by G Herbo featuring Juice WRLD, Lil Uzi Vert, and Chance the Rapper. So I came up with this idea to do this series. It kind of started through my blog, where it was called a Music with a Message series, and then on Instagram and on social media it's called Music Monday. So here we're going to be calling it Music with a Message series. So this is the first edition of the Music with a Message series, where I break down different songs and the importance of their lyrics. So I really want to start off with PTSD by G Herbo, which was released in February of 2020. I really feel like 2020 can be summed up with PTSD. Like, I really feel like we're never going to forget the year 2020, and a lot of us are going to have trauma and probably have trauma from this year because of all the stuff that has happened. And I just thought this was a really good song to start the series off with, and I really wanted to break down the importance of these lyrics. So I'm going to be going through the song and I'm going to be breaking down each part of the song. So let's start off with the chorus that is performed by Juice WRLD. May he rest in peace. I turn the news on when I smell death in the air. I prove you wrong, I made it out of here. I don't belong, I see my past everywhere. Don't stand too close to me, eternal PTSD. So I feel like the media can be very deceiving. Like, the media will always put urban crime, death on television first before anything else, because the media is here to get their coin, okay? And I feel like the media really affects our mental health and really affects the way that we see crime and the way that we see the world, because really crime has been decreasing since the 1990s and it has steadily been decreasing. But if we base our perception on crime based on the media, we're going to think that it's rising. So I really feel like when Juice WRLD was saying, like, I turn the news on when I smell death in the air, like, on the media and on the news, like, that's all you see is death all the time. And I feel like stepping away from social media and media is a good thing, because it really affects your mental health. And then the next part, Juice WRLD talks about, like, I proved you wrong, I made it out of here. I feel like for black folks, like, we're not expected to climb up the social economic ladder. Like, we're expected to stay where we're at, not expected to be successful. So Juice WRLD is saying, like, yeah, you know, I made it out and now I'm a successful rapper. Unfortunately, he did pass in December of 2019, so may he rest in peace. And then the last part of this line, he says, don't stand too close to me, eternal PTSD. I feel like PTSD is eternal, especially for black folks in the black community, because we have multi-generational trauma plus the continued oppression from institutionalized racism, which is also known as post-traumatic slave syndrome, which is a book that I highly recommend. And I also made a video on it the beginning of this year when my channel was a little different before I rebranded. So y'all can definitely go check out that video after this one. The vibes are a little bit different, but definitely still go check out that video if you like. But I really feel like PTSD is eternal for black folks because, like, multi-generational trauma from slavery, like, we have never healed from that. And because we have this continued oppression from institutionalized racism, we're continuing to stack trauma on top of trauma, trauma on top of trauma. So it's like, it's eternal. And I really feel like the only way for us to break these generational curses is, or I guess generational curses, I don't know if I really want to consider it generational curses, but a lot of people call it that. I think is the only way to break that is by starting your healing journey and passing that on to the next generation, because healing is not a destination. Like, there's always going to be trauma there, there's always going to be triggers there. You have to start that cycle of healing, though. Even though we have this oppression from institutionalized racism, we have to combat it with our healing journey so that we don't continue this generational trauma. I got a war zone on the side of my head. I made it on my own. They said I'd be in jail or dead. I see my brothers fall over and over again. Don't stand too close to me. I got PTSD. So again, Juice WRLD's talking about his PTSD, talking about having a war zone inside of his head. I feel like we just suffer with mental health a lot, and it's like a war zone in our head all the time because we can't look away from the things that are happening in this world. You know, just like with the Black Lives Matter movement this year in 2020, like white folks, they were able to turn off social media and not worry about George Floyd or Breonna Taylor. But us black folks, that's going on in our head all the time, all day, every day, and it still is. So it's really a war zone in our head because we can't walk away from this stuff. Like, we can't just not worry about it, just like how white folks can just put their phone down or just not even think about these things day to day. Not saying that white folks don't have their own set of problems, but with black folks, like, it's really a war zone in our head with all of this oppression and trauma that we have to deal with. And then Juice WRLD talks about, he said, I made it on my own. They said I'd be in jail or dead. And that's another thing, as like I was talking about earlier, they don't expect black folks to be successful or climb up the social economic ladder. So they expect us to either be in jail or die by a certain age. And unfortunately, Juice WRLD did eventually end up in that second category of being dead at a young age. It's kind of sad that, like, we're expected by society to either be in jail or dead, and sometimes it ends up that way, which is very unfortunate. Then Juice WRLD says that he sees his brothers fall over and over again. I feel like growing up in a rougher part of town or in the hood, like, you see and experience maybe a lot of death around you, you know, or death related things. Even if you don't like see death directly, like, you might hear a lot of gunshots in your neighborhood. I know I have growing up, or just, you know, hear about different gun violence, things that's going on. So that's definitely traumatizing too, growing up around that and seeing people die in your own neighborhood, your own brothers or people that you consider brothers that are a part of your neighborhood is definitely sad. So I feel like all of these things, Juice WRLD is saying that, like, this is contributing to his trauma and his PTSD. His environment is triggering his PTSD, and then also institutionalized racism is triggering the PTSD. Now we're going to move on to verse 1 by G Herbo. I was hearing bangs like Chief Keef, always yelling names that's DC's. I go for my mind and my instinct, shooting at the same time. We was in sync on the same thing, trying to repeat. We was in them, whips right back on the enemy, stuffed on my last hit. I was in the middle seat, fucking on the sunroof. Brody got a quick release. Okay, so it sounds like G Herbo is in a shootout in this verse, and this is another thing that happens, like, when you are involved with like gang related violence or just gun violence. It sounds like he's talking about being in a shootout with somebody, and I feel like growing up in the hood or just like in an environment that doesn't expect any more of you, just like how Juice WRLD was talking about earlier, expect you to be in jail or dead, don't really expect anything from you. Sometimes that leads to joining gangs or being involved in gun violence, because honestly, like, being a part of a gang, that could be like a family, that could be like a structure for somebody, like that could be family for someone, even though like gang related and gun violence is not, you know, safe. sometimes just having that familial aspect a part of your life makes you feel good. And I feel like that causes PTSD too. Like, I can't imagine me like shooting anyone, even if like it's for protection or anything like that. I feel like I will always have PTSD if I've ever shot someone or ever like was in a shootout with anyone or had to protect myself. So I feel like that, being a part of that and having to see that growing up, that's definitely gonna cause some trauma. G Herbo also in the first line of his verse, he said, "I was hearing bangs like Chief Keef," and Chief Keef is another Chicago rapper. All these artists that are in this song, besides Lil Uzi Vert, are from Chicago. So I feel like they are really drawn from their experiences from Chicago. And G Herbo mentions Chief Keef in the first line of this verse, who is another Chicago rapper who kind of I think that he promotes gun violence in his lyrics. And G Herbo, in a way, I feel like he frames his lyrics to not promote gun violence, but just like raise awareness to like, okay, this is what I went through, and you don't want to go through this. You don't want to go down that path. And we in the car real fast from police. Shots fired back, but his ass in the street. When I bought a 40-year-old Brittany and Tiffany, knowing if they call it ain't shit they can't get from me. A lot of warfare, 17, had a 50-piece. Flexed on niggas, so you know they want to kill a G. Royalty, posted in the hood with some Bentley keys. Loyalty, rock die, showing what it really mean. I can't sleep cause it's a war zone in my head. My killer's good, they know I'm hands-on with the bread. $1 million ahead, I'm still angry and seeing red. How the fuck I'm supposed to have fun? All my niggas dead. That was like a tongue teaser for me to get out. That was a tongue teaser for me to get out. But yeah, so this is still G Herbo's verse, and yeah, he's talking about this gun violence that he's experiencing right now. And I think I really want to pay attention to like the last part of the verse where he talks about he posted in the hood with some Bentley keys. So I feel like I don't understand why people, especially black people, when black people get successful, they get some money, they want to flaunt it off. I feel like that comes from society saying that like, oh, you're not gonna be nothing, you ain't nothing, you're not gonna make it up in the world. I feel like we try to flaunt our wealth when we have it, and flaunt it so that people can see and like prove people wrong. But it's like, just like G Herbo was saying in this verse, like he said flex on niggas, so you know they want to kill a G. So it's like when you flex on people and you flaunt your stuff, you know, we have this crabs in a bucket mentality in the black community. So if you go and flaunt your stuff in the hood, they're gonna try to take it from you, okay? So I think that's interesting, and that also is a part of the trauma too, crabs in a bucket mentality. Just like knowing that when you have success and you want to share it with your community, but you know that your community could have malintentions for you, like it's like that's trauma in itself too. So I feel like in the black community, some of us don't want to see each other succeed, and that's really sad. And I feel like G Herbo in this verse is talking about like, even though he has money and even though he's like reached this peak of success, you know, as an artist, like he still experiences PTSD. And like he said, $1 million ahead, I'm still angry and seeing red. How the fuck am I supposed to have fun? All my niggas dead. So it's like he can't even share this wealth and this success and his experiences with his friends because they're dead. But at the same time, he still wants to flaunt it in the hood and let people know, like, yeah, this is what I got, this is what I have, and this is what you don't have. So yeah, I think it's interesting, like, how even when you have money, PTSD is still gonna be there. Trauma is still gonna be there. Money does not erase trauma at all. Now we're gonna move on to verse 2 by Chance the Rapper, which is my favorite verse on this track. And I think I'm biased because Chance is one of my favorite rappers, so yeah. Used to run home from the train stop, running so fast dodging raindrops. Remember got robbed at the park once. Remember thinking that bitch probably ain't caught. Remember I was with my mama one time, seen a nigga through the glass, hit a nigga with a bank shot, point blank head hanging off a tank top. Walked off, we drove off, went to gang, stop. Quiet right there, picked up San Andreas. Certain things we ain't talk about, mama, we just prayed off. We seen it all, don't get involved. Carry the weight of the world like a shawl, concealing, revealing the people in court. So this is my favorite verse because I feel like it's very deep. So, Chance is another rapper that's from Chicago. He grew up seeing a lot of things, and clearly in this verse he talks about how he saw a man get shot at one point when he was with his mom. So I feel like seeing people get shot in your own neighborhood like that definitely contributes to your trauma. And then the thing that hits me is that he said they walked off, we drove off, went to GameStop, and they picked up San Andreas. And I don't know, that's just so deep to me because, like, even though we're experiencing these things in our own neighborhood, if you guys don't know what San Andreas is a video game that's a part of the Grand Theft Auto series. And that game has a lot of gun violence and shooting, theft, all the other stuff. I didn't play GTA and I didn't have fun with it, but it's like, why, if we're experiencing these things in our own communities and we're seeing this stuff firsthand, why do we want to experience it virtually or like for pretend in a video game? Like, I'm trying to understand it for myself. I don't know. For me, that's just like really interesting because Grand Theft Auto is really fun. And it's like, why is it fun for us to be stealing cars for pretend and shooting people in video games, shooting innocent people in video games? I know if y'all play Grand Theft Auto, y'all be shooting up and beating innocent people on the streets, on the sidewalk, doing whatever, trying to see how many stars you can get, running from the police, like all that stuff. So it's like, why, if we're experiencing these things in real life, why do we want to experience them virtually? And why does it bring us so much like satisfaction and adrenaline, like seeing this stuff in a video game? Like, why is it so fun for us? I can't answer that question right now. It's just a question that like I have. So I feel like that's very deep because like, even though he just saw someone get shot with his own eyes, he went to go pick up Grand Theft Auto to go play that so that he could do the same thing, but virtually, or see other people do the same thing virtually in a video game. I think that's deep. I don't know what y'all, but I think that's deep, okay? Maybe I'm reaching, but I think that's deep, and that's my interpretation of that part. And then the next part, Chance talks about, like, they didn't talk about it. He said, certain things we didn't talk about, mama, we just prayed off. And, Chance really talks about his life as a Christian and how his relationship with God, like, he's very open about that. And I feel like in the Black community especially, and just like with Christianity, like, we cannot just pray off this trauma. Just like I said earlier, money, when you get money, the trauma's still gonna be there. After you pray, the trauma's still gonna be there. Praying does not get rid of trauma, okay? Faith without works is dead. Like, we actually have to be consistent about getting rid of this trauma and starting our healing journeys, because religion and just reading a book and just praying about it, that's not going to do anything. Like, talking to God is great, okay? It is great. But sometimes you need to be able to talk to your family about, like, what you just saw. Like, if you just saw somebody get shot and you can't even go home and talk about it, you got to keep that in. Like, that's not easy. You should at least be able to talk to your family and friends or people about it, people outside of God, so that it can be a place where you can feel safe and talk about your feelings instead of having to hold it in and, like Chance said, carry the weight of the world like a shawl. So it's like you carrying all this weight on you with nowhere to put it. Okay, you can put some of it on God, but it's like you can't, it's not going to heal you. Like, even if you put some of that pain on God and that trauma on God, it's not going to go away. Okay, you really have to be able to talk to someone, or talk to even a professional, like if you can. Like I know that in the Black community, like therapy and just counseling services in general, like it's, first of all, it's a stigma, and then second of all, it's expensive, so it's not really accessible for Black folks, which is really sad. But I really feel like more Black folks should be open to going to therapy and being open to talking to people about this trauma that they have experienced. Then the last line, Chance says, "Conceal and revealing the people in court." For me, I feel like that line says that, you know, nobody really knows about our trauma because we keep it all in until like something happens where it's revealed in a court case. So let's say that like our trauma or the things that we've seen growing up have made us get involved in like gang related violence, gun violence, and then you end up getting involved with law enforcement and you end up, you know, in court. I feel like our trauma gets revealed in court through that way, but the courts don't really see it as trauma. They see it as, you know, this is just somebody that's a criminal, somebody that needs to go to jail. So I feel like I could be reaching there, but when I was reading that lyric, concealing, revealing the people in court, I feel like we hold all this trauma in, but then like when something happens where our trauma makes us do something that it may be illegal, like people don't see the trauma. Instead, they see the crime and they don't care about the mental health of that person, if that makes sense. I still can feel it. I know that the world is evil, in case you thought a nigga forgot it. When my homie was bleeding out, another homie went in his pockets. Please do not run up on me, not even as fans. Niggas get fanned down on the damn, riding or flying. I'm scary as hell. I need me a Xan. So I think it's sad that even in the midst of like dying, that like that's your friend, and it seems like you're more concerned about what money he had left or they had left in their pocket versus them bleeding out. And that's how it is sometimes. It's like, okay, he's gone, he's dead, he's bleeding out now, so you know, take what he has. I feel like that's just kind of sad to think about, that as a friend you're thinking about the money and what that person has left over instead of thinking about them bleeding out. I mean, I understand it's like nothing else you can do at that point, but it's kind of sad to think about that. And then Chance said, "Please do not run up on me, not even as fans." So like, you know, fans like to run up on celebrities, you know, and try to get autographs, whatever, talk to them. Like Chance, like, because of my trauma, my PTSD, do not run up on me. And I feel like that go for anybody. If you run up on somebody, they're gonna be like, who are you? Like, what you doing? You know, it's like an instinct, like a fighting instinct, you know, like you get in this mode that you're in danger and stuff or something if somebody run up on you. And then the last part of this verse where he said, "I'm scary as hell, I need me a Xan." So I feel like a lot of times to cope with PTSD or just trauma in general, a lot of folks turn to drugs, like illegal drugs. And, you know, I don't judge anybody who turns to illegal drugs to deal with their trauma, because, you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. You know, some people use weed, some people use more psychedelic drugs like mushrooms, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But then I feel like there needs to be a better way for us to be able to cope with our mental health and our trauma. Like, I feel like there needs to be a better way, because getting involved with drugs can be very dangerous. Like, it can be, you can have an overdose, or, you know, anything could happen. You can get drugs that are laced or anything. So I feel like there needs to be better ways in our communities that we can be able to cope with our trauma, because even after that trip, after you're high, after it comes down, that trauma's still gonna be there, just like I've been saying this whole time. After you pray to God, that trauma's still gonna be there. After you get money, that trauma's still gonna be there. After you're done with your high and your trip, that trauma's still gonna be there regardless. So it's like, these are all like temporary things that I feel like people do to cope with their trauma. I feel like Juice WRLD talks about this in the next part of the song, which is the bridge. So I'm about to break that part down for y'all. The days seem longer as life gets shorter. We know sex, drugs, money, all in that order. Ain't no structure, no peace. We've lost our order, leaving me with anxiety, fucking up my sobriety. So, just like I was saying, the trauma is still gonna be there after the money, after the drugs, and we have to find better ways than sex, money, and drugs to cope. We have to. And Juice WRLD also says, ain't no structure, no peace, we've lost our order. I low-key feel like the Black community, like, we are just not cohesive. Like, in some ways, we kind of look cohesive, like with the Black Lives Matter movement. But, and I just feel like we not cohesive and we not on the same page. I feel like we not moving and working as a collective. I understand that, like, we all have different ideas on how we think that we should be able to get economic freedom and just how we're supposed to maneuver in this world. I feel like we all have different ideas on how Black people should fight for our equality. But I just feel like we don't move as a collective, and that's a problem. Like, we don't have structure, and we need more structure. We need more structure in the Black community, because I just feel like if we were able to move as a collective, then we would get a lot more things done and we would see a lot more progress. But we are not all on the same page at all. Lastly, I think that the Black community, we only tend to think about ourselves sometimes. We only tend to think about, oh, how I'm finna get my money, how I'm finna become a millionaire, billionaire. We're not worried about the rest of the community. And I feel like that mindset really hinders us. It really hinders that collective community mindset of us moving on one accord. Because I feel like too many of us are either selfish or have that crabs in a bucket mentality. So whenever I see Black folks like online talking about they finna be a millionaire, billionaire, like I kind of question like, why? Like, why do you want to be a millionaire / billionaire? Like, it's okay to like strive for that, but it's like, why? Like, do you want to be like Jeff Bezos and just have all this money and be one of the richest people in the world so you could say that? Like, if I was one of the richest people in the world, I would not be proud. I'm not saying I wouldn't be proud, but I would definitely want to try to distribute my wealth. You know what I'm saying? So I really hope that one day when I do have a bigger income, because I'm still younger and still getting my career together. So once my career is going and my income is steady and I'm making more money, I really hope that I will continue to bless others, since I have been blessed with the income that I have. So yeah, I definitely feel like Black people should not be selfish and move in a more community-based mindset. Now we're gonna move on to the last verse by Lil Uzi Vert. It's a war zone laying inside my head. I still think about all my niggas that's dead. I'm too paranoid. Yeah, I know you heard what I said. I'm too paranoid. I make sure all my ops stay bled, draining all my energy. No, I cannot sleep. I'm affected by the streets. No appetite, I can't eat. I only see red when I see. I think it's my PTSD. I think it's my PTSD. I think it's my PTSD. Yeah. Lil Uzi, he talking about his PTSD and his trauma. And he talks about his paranoia. I feel like when you are, one thing, like when you have PTSD and you have trauma, I feel like you're paranoid a lot. You have a lot more anxiety. You might have more symptoms of depression. Like, the trauma definitely triggers all of those things. And then also Lil Uzi says that he only sees red when he sees. And G Herbo also said that in the verse earlier too. And the way that I interpret that is that, like, when I think of red, like when you see red, it's kind of like when you see a target. So it's like, I feel like because of the paranoia, when you see red, it's like you kind of see everybody as a target. And it's like you kind of need to watch your back and make sure that nobody is like finna come after you or anything like that. And then Lil Uzi also talks about like he don't have no appetite, he can't eat, he can't sleep. So like definitely when you're either depressed, have anxiety, or have any type of mental health problems, it's difficult to get up out of bed, it's difficult to sleep, it's difficult to eat, it's difficult to do the basic things when you have trauma and that you just have different symptoms of depression and anxiety. So I feel like just throughout this whole song, like they are all describing just the mental health issues and problems that the Black community faces. I know it was a little struggle with me, you know, reading and trying to rap the lyrics or whatever, but we got through it, okay? We got through it. I know I ain't the best Mother Goose rapper, but it's okay. But now that I'm done like interpreting the song, I think that overall I feel like this really just touches on the PTSD, post-traumatic slave syndrome, the trauma and healing we need to do as a Black community. And specifically just talking to the Black community, just like we need to heal and we need to break these generational curses and this generational trauma. We need to start our healing journeys. Our healing starts here, okay? It starts with us so that we can pass it on to the next generation, and the next generation passes it on too. And that goes for like generational wealth too. Like just how people pass down generational wealth, Black folks need to be passing down generational wealth and generational healing. That's what I got out of this video. So yeah, let me know your thoughts about my interpretation of the song. If you guys think I was reaching a little bit with some of the things, let me know. If you agree or disagree with some of my interpretations. If you have any other song suggestions for this Music with a Message series, definitely leave them in the comment section below. Also, just about trauma and healing in the Black community, what do you think about it? Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I hope y'all enjoyed this video and that it was educational and informational. Okay, I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.